Hello, 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 and welcome. It is that time again. The one you've all been waiting for, TrendWatching's biggest webinar of the year, 5 Trends for 2020. My name is David Mattin. I'm Global Head of Trends and Insights here at TrendWatching, broadcasting to you as usual from the London offices. We are going to dive in today to 5 key emerging trends reshaping consumer expectations in 2020. If you want to follow us on Twitter, follow the action on Twitter, please do so. You can find us at TrendWatching and use the hashtag TrendWebinar. Of course, if you're a premium client, you're already diving into the complete full trend report that is part of your premium service, which landed a couple of weeks ago. 16 powerful emerging trends reshaping consumer expectations in 2020. Your beautiful print edition will soon be landing on your desk, so look out for it. It's as beautiful inside as out, and of course it's as always structured around our 16 mega trends that shape everything we do here at TrendWatching, the 16 key long-lasting mega trends that are reshaping the consumer arena. And of course that trend report is just one fraction of your premium service. As you know, hundreds of trends, thousands of innovation examples, so dive into that too, because that is what we are obsessed with here at TrendWatching. We are obsessed with the trends reshaping consumer behavior, mindset, attitude, and expectation. And that is what everything we do is all about. As I say in this webinar, 5 key trends for 2020. Before we dive into the trends, I just want to take a step back and ask, look, what are these things called trends? Where do they come from? How do they emerge? What are they built of? Because that will be super useful for everything that follows. So look, we at TrendWatching have a way of looking at the world, a way of thinking about trends that starts with one very simple observation, and that is change. We live in a changing world, and you guys are of course all used to that, and you only have to look across the last handful of months to see how fast the consumer arena is changing. WeWork went from an iconic, heroic business story to potentially one of the biggest business catastrophes of all time. You have Mark Zuckerberg facing some very difficult questions, and that's just a symbol really of the entire tech industry facing increasing demands for regulation and regulatory oversight in 2020 and beyond. A huge change from just a few years ago. You have Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic becoming the first consumer space business to IPO in New York. Wow, changing times indeed. Here is the thing about all this change. It can throw you off balance. It's very hard to know how to make sense of it all, let alone plot your next move, when you live in an environment of such seemingly chaotic change. But there is a simple, powerful core truth that can let you start to get a handle on this change, start to make sense of it, and discern some meaningful directions of travel, discern some trends within the change. And here is that truth. Yes, there's lots of change, but amid all that, we are still the same old humans with the same old basic human needs. So human beings are motivated by a set of fundamental needs, things like value, security, convenience, fun, excitement, whatever it is. They are very stable. They don't really change decade on decade, century on century. And the reason I'm telling you this is because trends are built of those 2 fundamental building blocks. On the one hand, change. On the other hand, basic human needs. In fact, to be more specific about it, we say this. We say that new trends emerge when some change in the world, often a new technology, but it doesn't have to be, but some change unlocks a new way to serve one of these age-old basic human needs that we all share. That's what trends, and that's what these 5 trends I'm going to share with you are all about. They're about new ways to serve age-old fundamental basic human needs. And crucially, we think the way you can see that happening, the best way to spot these trends, is to look out to the world of innovation, the products, services, campaigns, business models arising now, and look particularly for those innovations that are serving basic human needs in new ways. Those innovations do something special. They change people. They rewire people. They give them new behaviors, new habits. Ultimately, they give them new expectations. They cause them to expect new things of the world around them. And those expectations, once they've been created, they will spread across industries, across demographics, across markets. That's why we're so passionate about telling clients, about telling you guys out there this. You live in an expectation economy. Who are you really competing against? It's not just the other people in your industry, the other people geographically around you. You're competing against those businesses, those brands, those startups that are creating the new customer expectations that you will eventually face, right? And that's what trends are all about. They're about spotting these new customer expectations as they're emerging, so you can see them in advance, you can do something about it. As we go through these 5 trends, we'll stop after every trend for a light bulb moment. We'll stop and ask, what does this trend mean for you? How can you put this trend to work in 2020? Because trends really are nothing. They mean nothing if you don't use them to innovate, to create products, services, campaigns that people are going to love. Okay, with all that said, let's race on to trend number 1. Trend number 1 starts here. Look, we are at a tipping point moment for awareness when it comes to the environment. Here's a quick survey just from the UK. More people than ever in the UK are saying that the environment, that the planet is a hugely important issue, is in the top 3 issues facing the country as far as they are concerned. More people than have ever been measured are saying that right now in the United Kingdom. And it's no surprise that we're at that tipping point moment for awareness when we've had so many powerful reminders of this issue in 2019. Of course, we've had Greta, we've had the global climate strike movement, we've had Extinction Rebellion too. Now look, you guys know we at TrendWatching have been tracking the evolution or the search for a more sustainable consumerism for well over a decade now. And what's been the big story running through all of that, running through so many of the trends we've identified in that story? It's been eco-consumption as a status play. It's been people turning to more sustainable eco products and services as a status currency to say, look how much of an enlightened, ethical consumer I am. And if you look at some of the iconic eco products of the last handful of years, you really see that story powerfully at work. I mean, just cast your mind back to the original Tesla, the Tesla Roadster way back in 2008, $100,000 electric supercar. It was a deeply status play product. It was eco status. Think about Adidas partnering with Parley for the Oceans back in 2015 to create a new range of sneakers made from ocean plastic. Back in 2015, they made 50 pairs, and you had to enter a competition to win one of those pairs of sneakers. Again, eco status, classic eco status. Think even about the Impossible Burger. Back in 2016, the Impossible Burger was available at one restaurant in the entire world, one restaurant on planet Earth in New York City. Now take a look at how all those products, those 3 products, have evolved since then. Okay, what's been the story? Well, the most recent Tesla, the Model 3, is a $35,000 car. It's a play for the mainstream driver. Adidas didn't make 50 pairs of ocean plastic sneakers in 2019. They made 11 million pairs of ocean plastic sneakers. And the Impossible Burger is available at Burger King. Over 7,000 outlets worldwide, and many other outlets too. Okay, what has happened there with those 3 products? You see a powerful story at work, and that is a story about eco products, eco solutions moving from rare, niche, exciting, unusual to totally mainstream, affordable, and ubiquitous. And what is the key implication of that story, of that evolution? Well, you're seeing it right now on the screen. When eco solutions, when eco products move from rare, surprising, niche, unattainable to mainstream, ubiquitous, totally affordable, then they no longer are that rare, exciting, amazing status currency. They're no longer a status play. Okay, it becomes, when eco products are totally ubiquitous, totally affordable, totally mainstream, and as good as the legacy alternatives, it becomes not really about the status of opting in. There isn't really any status anymore because these eco solutions are everywhere. Everyone can have them. It becomes then about the shame of opting out. Like, why are you not doing it? If it's totally affordable, if it's totally available to you, if it's just as good as the other alternative, why would you not choose the eco solution? And that's what we're facing right now. That is the crucial shift in the sustainable consumption story. It's a shift from eco status to eco shame. And that's what this first trend, green pressure, is all about. It's about saying, Very simply, in 2020, consumers take a powerful shift from eco-status to eco-shame, and they are going to look to brands and businesses and startups and innovations to help them cope with this new world of eco-shame and green pressure. Of course, we had an early signal of this trend with this word, flight shame. The shame many people feel about flying and the damage that that is doing to the planet. Check out this example. This is KLM. They recently ran a campaign called Fly Responsibly. Go to YouTube, check it out, watch the video. It's a video that essentially encourages people to question seriously whether they need to fly as often as they do. Do you really need to take this flight you are about to take, is the question posed to you in this video. Could you take the train instead? Could you find a way to just dial into that meeting instead, video conferencing? Do you really need to be there? And if you absolutely have to fly, can you carbon offset it? Can you pack light so that you don't add to the weight of the aeroplane? I mean, an amazing campaign for an airline to run. Think seriously about ways to not fly. And that is a powerful signal of this trend, green pressure, and of this monumental shift from eco-status to eco-shame. It's such a powerful shift that is going to rewrite so much about consumerism and turn so many imperatives and so many marketing messages on their head. I mean, many of you will remember, this example taps into a previous iconic advert that many of you will remember. This is way back in 2011. Patagonia ran a campaign in the New York Times. They took a page of the New York Times to say this: do not buy this jacket. And back then, this was, mind-blowing. No one had ever seen anything like this. We wrote about it. Everyone wrote about it. It was incredible. Part of what I want to say to you with this trend is that campaigns like this and the underlying attitude that it signals, that we need to seriously rewrite our attitude to consumption. And as businesses, we need to seriously think about the role we're playing in society and the impacts we're having on the planet. That's going to become more and more mainstream, and campaigns like this perhaps won't be shocking. An airline asking you to fly less won't be as shocking, and it shouldn't be as shocking as perhaps it now seems. But look, this is not going to just be about the fashion industry. This is not just going to be about flight shame and the airline industry. This trend is going to impact every industry. This shift from eco-status, eco-solutions as a status play, to eco-shame. Like, how do I avoid the shame of all the negative impacts that my consumption has? This shift is going to play out across every industry. Let's rewind back to the 1980s for a moment and see how a massive player in the financial services industry portrayed global consumption. Just check out this video.
Yesterday, steak in San Francisco. Tonight, teriyaki in Tokyo.
Very international.
Right down to my card.
So worthy, so welcome, so worthy, so welcome.
I bought my bubbles in Bimini.
International. I bought my skis in Aspen.
No, Switzerland.
So worthy, so welcome.
I bought my tan in Spain. Olay.
So worthy, so welcome. MasterCard, the only name you need beside your own. MasterCard International. So worthy, so welcome, so worthy, so welcome. MasterCard International.
You've got to love it. So there's MasterCard back in the 80s, glorying in the idea of the global consumer, the consumer that can fly anywhere and have his teriyaki in Tokyo and go skiing in Aspen and all this stuff constantly, all the time. It's a very different picture now. Those days of carefree consumerism are over. This shift from eco-status to eco-shame is going to spell the end, and should spell the end, of that kind of glorified, extreme, conspicuous and wasteful consumption. And brands are going to have to adjust to a new world in which consumers are taking a radically different attitude to their consumption and seeking to ameliorate the negative impacts of their consumption on the planet and deal with their eco-shame. And just as a signal of this shift again, I mean, that was MasterCard back in the 1980s, and you've got to love that video. It's great fun. But check this out. This is MasterCard partnering with a fintech company called Doconomy to launch a new credit card that allows users to set themselves a personal carbon budget and stick to it. So you can set a personal carbon budget, and then whenever you make a purchase, it's calculating how much of your personal carbon budget you're using up with that purchase. And crucially, when you reach your limit, it will just come back to you and say, no, purchase denied. You cannot make this purchase. You have reached your personal carbon budget for this month. So just such a powerful tool in the hands of the consumer to help them stick to a carbon limit, to help them kind of track and meter and limit at least one of their negative impacts on the planet via their consumption. And a radically different world from the kind of world that that ad from the 1980s was glorifying in. So look, this is the key shift for sustainable consumption in 2020. And it is a huge shift, and one that's going to play out, of course, way beyond 2020, because this is a profound tipping point moment for sustainable consumption. It's no longer about, or at least not just about, and often not about, the status of opting in, like getting that super rare, amazing $100,000 Tesla or the limited edition pair of sneakers. When these solutions are totally mainstream as they're becoming, it becomes about the shame of opting out. Why did you not do that? How could you not do it? That is a profound shift, and I would love you guys to take that trend away and think deeply about what it means for your industry and what it means for you. Like, how can you help consumers avoid eco-shame in 2020 and beyond? How can you send them messages and acknowledge the eco-shame that they do share with you at the moment? And how are you going to deal with this radical new mindset around consumption that we will see increase, in which, an airline can tell you, perhaps you shouldn't be flying all the time. You shouldn't be. Think about it. Can you find a different way? What is the equivalent in your industry of that kind of campaign? Okay, let's race on to trend number 2. Starts with a very different but equally powerful basic human need: connection. Like, human beings are by nature social animals. They build relationships. They build relationships with each other. They build relationships with the brands and businesses they engage with. And I just want to look here at one particular trend that's changing the way consumers relate to brands in 2020 and beyond. Does anyone know who this is? I can't hear you shout back at me, but I'm sure many of you, pretty much all of you do, of course. It's Lil Miquela. She is a virtual influencer with 1.6 million followers on Instagram. She's just a digital apparition. She is a virtual character, but she makes very real money by appearing in advertising campaigns, by making personal appearances, quote unquote, at live events, including the Coachella Festival this year. Her career really kicked into a new gear this year in May when she starred alongside Bella Hadid, the model, in an ad for Calvin Klein. As you know, Calvin Klein are known for their kind of edgy, boundary-pushing campaigns. They said with this campaign, they wanted to stretch the audience's perception of reality. I'm going to play you the campaign now. You can see for yourself, or decide for yourself whether you think they managed that. Check this out.
Life is about opening doors, creating new dreams you never knew could exist.
Okay, did that stretch your perception of reality? Or is it just one particular middle-aged ad man's fantasy? I will let you decide. But look, it had traction and people engaged on social media. This is Lil Miquela herself saying, thank you so much to Calvin Klein for letting me be part of this campaign. Here's someone asking Lil Miquela about her sexuality. Here's someone diving in saying, how dare you ask her about her sexuality? It's nothing to do with you. Bearing in mind, of course, this is just a virtual character. This is a digital mirage. And look, yes, we can laugh. It's very amusing. But there is a deeper story at play here that I want to tap into. Okay, we've been tracking for ages now, and you guys know this, the evolution of conversational brands. You know, the rise of social media, which democratized the relationship between brands and consumers and led to a genuine two-way conversation between brands and consumers rather than the old top-down messaging model. How has that evolved? Well, in the last few years, we've seen an explosion of digital channels. There aren't just a few platforms on which these conversations between brands and consumers are happening. There are multiple channels, each with their own demands, each with their own set of users and their own traditions. And that is a new kind of challenge for brands, that kind of channel diffusion. At the same time, we've seen the nature of consumers' relationships with technology, particularly with virtual characters, evolve in a really interesting way. Okay, we've seen the rise of what we at TrendWatching call virtual companions. This is AI-fueled entities, AI-fueled characters, where consumers have more than just a transactional, more than just a functional relationship with these entities. You know, more deeper than just Alexa, order me some washing powder. We're seeing the rise of AI-fueled characters and entities and assistants, where consumers have a relationship that's deeper, that's about things like health or wellness or creativity or, yes, even friendship and companionship. And what that's doing is priming consumers to expect and accept deeper relationships with virtual characters of all kinds, including virtual influencers like Lil Michaela. And that's what this second trend, brand avatars, is all about. It's about saying in 2020, consumers are going to look to human brands to bring themselves to life in interesting new ways via virtual characters and virtual avatars in all kinds of interesting digital channels. And I want to show you some examples of what I mean by these brand avatars. So check this out. Here's an interesting one to start with. What is often the first industry to jump on a new digital trend and make use of it? Yes, the porn industry. And this is YouPorn introducing essentially a virtual influencer of its own. Her name is Jeddy Vales, which is a pretty weird name. Hopefully no one out there is really called Jeddy Vales. If they are, they might be wanting to change their name right now. Jeddy Vales is like the latest member of the YouPorn marketing team, who are a very, very busy bunch. And essentially what she's supposed to do is engage with consumers on mainstream social platforms in a safe for work way. Like, she's a pretty wholesome girl, even though she works for YouPorn. Here she is out in nature doing some hiking. Shout out to Umar, who you can see there in the comments, leaving her number for Jeddy Vales, because you never know, you truly never know. Yeah, now this is the YouPorn marketing team, obviously wanting to engage with consumers in a safe for work way, wanting to reach them on other platforms, and that's great. If you think this trend is niche or fringe because the first example I'm showing you is a YouPorn example, then check this out. This is an incredible example. This is the Chinese state news agency launching a virtual news anchor, okay? And what's incredible about this example is that this brand avatar, this virtual news anchor, is more than just a marketing asset, more than just a marketing technique. It can be truly transformative for the actual service that the state news agency delivers. If you think about a human news anchor, of course, you know, they read the news every hour, maybe every half an hour. And when they read the news, they read it once. And it's the same for all million or 100 million people that are watching. A virtual news anchor, this virtual news anchor, can read the news hundreds of millions, billions of times a day simultaneously. And it can deliver each user a totally personalized news bulletin based on their interests and tastes and all of that. So it can be totally transformative for the service you offer. And that's the key point I want to make with this example. Yes, a brand avatar can be a hugely powerful marketing campaign, essentially, or marketing asset, but it can also totally transform the relevance and the power of the service you're offering. What is a really powerful emerging channel that you should think about when it comes to creating your own brand avatar? Gaming. Massive online shared games and massive online shared virtual worlds are a powerful new channel for you to think about when it comes to deploying a brand avatar of your own. Check out this. This is Wendy's. Wendy's recently put a brand avatar of their own into Fortnite. You guys, I mean, we've talked about Fortnite endlessly. Potentially the numbers have peaked, but there's still, in all likelihood, a couple of million people playing Fortnite right now as we speak. Wendy's, created a brand avatar, threw that brand avatar into Fortnite. I want to play you a video to give you a quick look at how that went. Check this out.
Fortnite has taken over the gaming world, becoming the most streamed game on Twitch ever. But brands are left out of the action, either tweeting from the sidelines or paying big bucks for in-game sponsorships. So when Fortnite announced a new event called Food Fight between Team Pizza and Team Burger, Wendy's saw an organic way-in. We found out Team Burger stored their beef in freezers. And Wendy's doesn't do frozen beef. So we got on Twitch, chose a character with red hair and pigtails, dropped into the game, and instead of killing other players, we started destroying burger freezers. Again and again and again, for 9 hours straight. We also declared our mission on Twitter, sending hundreds of thousands of gamers to Twitch to watch us play. And soon other players stopped killing each other and started killing burger freezers with us.
Hey, Wendy's, dude, let's go!
Top Twitch streamers took notice.
I saw a Wendy's stream over here, dude.
Oh, you smacking the burgers, freezers?
This shit's lit. This kind of stuff keeps the game fresh.
Thank you so much for coming to the stream, Wendy.
Yeah, so think about these huge online shared games as new channels in which you can deploy a brand avatar of your own. Just check out that campaign. I mean, how often is it that you get to literally play alongside consumers, collaborate with them, cooperate with them, and have them welcoming you into their world in the way that you saw there? That is now a very rare thing, and if you can achieve that with a brand avatar, it can be hugely powerful. Applying this trend should be a massive opportunity for you to gather your team and ask some huge and deep questions about your brand, because if you want to create a brand avatar, really the first thing you need to ask yourself is, okay, but who are we? Who are we as a brand? What is our brand? What does it stand for? What are our core values? Because it's only when you know that, and know the answer to those questions, that you can then set about asking yourself, okay, how do we take that core brand identity? How do we take those core values and turn it into a character that we can deploy in this particular channel? So, I mean, you know, if you're not going to do anything else with this trend, just take it as an opportunity to gather your team and use it as an exercise. Say, you know, the output of this exercise is going to be this character, is going to be a brand avatar. We need to sit and think about who we are as a brand, what we believe, what we stand for, in order to be able to create this character. Hugely powerful exercise for your team before the end of the year or early in the next year. Now look, this trend is really just a part, one angle, one shard on a massive shift that you guys know very well. Brands have to exist in media. They exist in the media that transmit them. Back in the day when we had old top-down legacy media, we had old top-down legacy brands were represented by characters and campaigns like this. Now we have democratized, participative, many-to-many media, and that means you need to create democratized, participative, many-to-many brand characters and brand avatars like this. That's a huge shift in the nature of the media that transmit your brand, and you need to think about how you reflect that in the characters and the avatars that represent your brand. So how could you deploy this trend in 2020? How could you think about creating an avatar of your own? Think about the channel that you want to be in. Think about, what are our core values? Who are we as a brand? What do we believe, and how do we represent that? And when you're creating this avatar, my final word would be, just be careful not to create an avatar that unintentionally marginalizes or excludes certain groups of people. Think about being inclusive when you create the character that's going to go out there and represent your brand. Okay, let's race on to trend number 3. Trend number 3 starts with this basic human need: relevance. relevance, the desire to get back things from the world that are relevant for you, that are a perfect fit, that are just right, that are personalized. That's always been part of the story of consumerism. Have we seen the story of personalization evolve over the last 10 years or more? Well, you guys know very well, of course, the big story has been data-fueled, online data-fueled personalization, which has turned billions of online users all around the world, each into a segment of one, served a unique experience according to their particular tastes, preferences, interests, past behavior, all of that. At the same time, we've seen something else. We've seen the culture of constant upgrades and iteration and change that's always been a part of online services move to the physical world too. So some of the physical world, some of the physical objects around us now update and change and evolve in the way that our apps on our phone do, say. For example, Tesla's just released OS X, and that's brought whole new features to the Tesla. It's brought improved auto cruise. It's brought in-car karaoke. Okay, literally it's upgraded the Tesla sitting on millions of people's driveways. And you put all that together, what you have now is consumers with expectations of constant upgrade and adaptation and personalization. So how are those expectations going to evolve in 2020? Well, I think they're going to merge with another big trend that we, of course, have been tracking forever, and so have you guys, everything as a service. We're going to see that everything as a service mindset and the convenience of that merge with expectations of constant upgrade and iteration and personalization. So if you ask me what is the future of personalization in 2020, I say this: it's relevance as a service. Yes, give me the convenience of everything as a service, but give me relevance as a service too. Give me constant rolling, upgrade, iteration, and personalization. And that's what this third trend, metamorphic design, is all about. It's about products and services and experiences that constantly shift and evolve and upgrade around the changing needs of the user over time. And I want to show you some examples of how we see this playing out. I want to take two dimensions of this everything as a service mindset that consumers have. The first dimension we can take is subscription services, right? We all see how that's part of everything as a service. You know, you take a physical object, you take a product, you put it in a box, you put it on monthly subscription, it becomes a rolling service and the consumer enjoys the convenience of that. Great. Let's look at how that's playing out in a couple of industries. Like take health. You know, everyone would love to find the perfect nutritional supplement, the formula that is just right for them. And you go to the store and there's a zillion different bottles, there's a zillion different formulas, and it's incredibly hard to make the choice and find the one that is perfect for you. And underlying that is an even deeper problem, which is, of course, there is no one perfect formula for you. There is no one perfect hit that's going to be right for the rest of your life, because you are an organic being. You are changing over time. You are evolving over time. Your needs are changing over time. Okay? Look at how this subscription service addresses that need. This is Bays, and what they deliver are vitamin supplements, nutritional supplements that change and evolve and upgrade over time as your needs change. And the way it works is this. You take a blood test using a proprietary device, it captures a tiny bit of blood, you post it back to Bays, they analyze it for your nutritional needs and send you the perfect supplements and vitamins based on those nutritional needs in a box every month. But every quarter you repeat that blood test. Bays reanalyze your blood and shift and upgrade and iterate the supplements they're sending you based on that test. So over time, as your nutritional needs change, as you change physiologically, the supplements that you're receiving change. So it's not just vitamins as a service, it's relevance, it's personalization as a service too. Yes, give me the convenience of this subscription box of vitamins to my house, to my front doorstep every month, but give me personalization as a service too packaged in with it. Look at beauty, another industry. Again, based on the promise of the perfect formula. Find the perfect foundation, find the perfect skin cream, find the perfect lipstick for you, whatever it is. Of course, again, there is no one perfect formula for you forever because you change over time. Check this out. This is Shiseido, the Asian cosmetics brand, creating skin cream that iterates and shifts and upgrades on a daily basis. And the way it works is you use an app to take a selfie. It analyzes your skin conditions. It takes some other data too, including the time of the month where you are in your menstrual cycle, environmental data, the weather, air pollution, things like that. It puts it all together, and then this special proprietary device, this cartridge that you can see on the slide, mixes you a skin cream that's right for your skin on that day. So this is skin cream that iterates and upgrades for you every day, depending on your changing skin every day. Again, not just the convenience of skin cream as a service, but relevance as a service too. Now look, yes, those two particular examples are founded on very proprietary kind of techniques and particular technologies that make them possible. You are not going to go out in 2020 and create, iterating, evolving nutritional supplements or daily evolving skin cream, or at least I highly doubt it. But as always with trend watching, I'm not showing you these examples to say just go and copy them. I'm showing them to you because they are such powerful signals of an underlying expectation that is deeply meaningful for you. Like, yes, give me the convenience of as a service, but give me relevance as a service too. Give me a product and experience as a service that constantly evolves and shifts and upgrades depending on my changing needs. And what you need to be asking is, what does that mean for your industry? What does that mean for your offering in 2020? Okay, when you can go and get nutritional supplements that evolve and iterate every quarter, when your skin cream does change every day depending on your changing needs, what do customers in that world start to expect from you? That is the question you must be asking for 2020. The other half of everything as a service is not subscription services, it's the access economy. Okay, rather than take an object, put it in a box, put it on subscription every month. No, just have a network of objects moving around out there in the world, and I can just access it whenever I want. Like cars is a great example. Mobility as a service. How are we going to deliver relevance as a service when it comes to the access economy? Here is a powerful signal of a brand attempting to answer that question. This is Kia doing some really interesting work with adaptive car interiors. I have a quick video of that. Check this out.
The car evolved to become faster, safer, and more convenient. Now, autonomous driving is coming. What lies beyond? We at Kia want to present emotive driving era centered on customer sensitivity.
Thanks to advanced technology that identifies your needs and emotional state of mind in real time, Kia strives to deliver a fully customized driving space that leads to a highly intuitive, unsurpassed in-vehicle mobility experience.
READ system, that means real-time emotion adaptive driving system, personalizes the driver's space by controlling light, sound, cabin temperature, seat vibration, and scent through analysis of biosignals, such as facial expression, heartbeat, and so on, that are detected in real time by 3D cameras and ECG sensors.
At present, the READ system can analyze the driver's feeling and control proper vehicle functions in real time.
So look, Kia are just one among a number of automakers experimenting with these kinds of real-time adaptive car interiors that are going to use sensors and facial recognition and so on to make a judgment of the emotional state of the driver and other people in the car and shift the car interior based on that. Now again, of course, you guys aren't going to go out, unless you're an automaker out there, in which perhaps you aren't going to go out and make adaptive car interiors in 2020. But again, when the car interior shifts around your emotional state in real time, when the car interior is truly metamorphic, what do people start to expect from you and from your brand? So how can you apply the principles of metamorphic design in 2020? How can you ensure that your offering shifts and evolves and upgrades around the changing needs of the user over time in the way that people will expect? Is it going to be about relevance as a service, subscription services for you? Is it going to be about the access economy? But just think about, what does an offering from us look like that changes and evolves over time along with the changing needs of the customer? Based on the simple, profound human truth that people simply do not stay the same over time. So this is an eternal trend that's always been true on that dimension, but a range of forces, as you can see from what I've just told you, are pushing that expectation right now. The expectation that you deliver on that truth is going to be powerful in 2020. So please take it away and think about it. Okay, racing on to trend number 4. Starts with this very powerful basic human need, well-being. Take a look at 3 statistics. Let's take a look at this one. 71% of women, 66% of men in Singapore feel they are working in an always-on environment with constant need to access work emails, attend calls, or check phones. Sounds familiar to a lot of you, I'm sure. 2/3 of working parents in Australia struggle to care for their health due to the tension between work and caring. 86% of British people say they've experienced anxiety due to work pressure in the last year. 87% have difficulty switching off from work, and 79% cite feelings of failure as a result. This is where it feels people are at in terms of work-life balance and work pressure increasingly in 2019. For millions around the world. And it should be no surprise when you have iconic CEOs like Jack Ma hyping 996 culture and saying his employees should be delighted to work all the hours that God sends, when you have relentless hustle glorification and hashtag hustle culture on social media, an entrepreneur culture that glorifies the idea of working 24 hours a day and never resting and all of that stuff. It's no surprise that in May 2019, the World Health Organization officially recognized occupational burnout as a workplace health phenomenon, okay? And that's what this trend, this 4th trend, the burnout, is all about. It's about saying we are at a borderline crisis moment for burnout, for workplace burnout, and smart brands and compassionate brands in 2020 will lend a hand, will rush to help consumers who are feeling burned by the pressures of modern life. Just a few quick examples to give you a slice of how you might do that. Here's a super intriguing one that I love to start with. This is a couple of Chinese developers who created a new license to essentially bolt onto open source software that demands that if you as a brand or a business are using this open source software, you stick to kind of proper, humane work-life balance rules, and you obey employment law, and if you get your employees to do overtime, you pay them properly and all that kind of stuff. They put it on GitHub. It became wildly popular. And just means that if you as a company want to use the software it's attached to, you have to abide by a particular set of rules about work-life balance. Here's a big brand tapping into this trend though. This is Clear Channel, the global advertising billboard giant, did something super interesting on the Stockholm Metro this year. They turned it into what they called an emotional art gallery. So they used an algorithm to take a judgment of the public mood in Stockholm on a particular morning. It was looking at things like Google searches in Stockholm, the weather in Stockholm, and so on. And then based on that judgment of the public mood, was it like angry, was it anxious, was it stressed? They played relevant content and relevant art that was intended to soothe that mood and be beneficial to that particular mood. Look, yes, of course, it is deeply unscientific. This algorithm really can't judge the mood of people in Stockholm on this morning, and I doubt that the art they play can really profoundly affect the mood of the people passing it by. It's just a powerful signal, though, of a huge global messaging brand attempting to tap into the expectation that brands take burnout seriously, that brands take the stress and the pressure of 2019 urban living seriously. And you can do the same. What is another hugely powerful application of this trend? If you know us well, you know we talk relentlessly about a glass box world, how transparency means people can see deep inside your business, and that means they can see your internal culture. Excuse me, and that means your internal culture is now a profoundly important part of your public-facing brand. So what you should do is make powerful changes to that internal culture and tell the world about them. The burnout is a great trend to kind of combine that insight with, take the Glassbox brands trends, Google it, read about Glassbox brands if you haven't already, take the burnout, mash them together and create a powerful innovation for 2020 that impacts your internal culture. This is Ernst & Young in Australia launching a new initiative that gives employees 12 weeks of unpaid, what they call life leave. It's just about responding to the need for much more flexible working. Of course, Ernst & Young, these kinds of companies are famous for working their employees very hard, having a culture of very long hours, all of that kind of stuff. So very, very interesting to see that company in particular taking burnout seriously. And look, yes, it's the right thing to do. Yes, it will be great, of course, for their own people who it will directly help. But in a glass box world where your internal culture is part of your public-facing brand, it will also shift the way outsiders, consumers, customers view you as a business. Like, aha, here is an ethical, enlightened internal culture. Here's an internal culture that takes burnout seriously. That's an internal culture. That's a business I want to engage with, that I can feel good about engaging with. We also saw Microsoft in Japan experimenting with a 4-day week. That's another really interesting play on this. Even governments are starting to take the burnout seriously. This is the government of New Zealand being the first in the world to create a national budget, not just around the idea of gross domestic product, around economics and money and finance, but around essentially gross domestic well-being. Creating a budget and government policy that's focused around the well-being of the people, not just their material affluence. Again, just a profoundly powerful signal of this emerging trend and this emerging focus on burnout and mental well-being and so on. So how could you put this trend to work in 2020? Could it be about new knowledge, new tools to help people cope with the burnout? How can you tap into their well-being in other dimensions? Do you want to think about a glass box world? Do you want to think about making changes to your internal culture, helping your own staff, your own people deal with the burnout? Yes, it's the right thing to do. Yes, it will help your own people, but it could also be the most powerful story you tell outsiders, you tell consumers about who you are as a brand in 2020. Far more powerful than any traditional marketing campaign that just tries to directly tell them, we are this, we are that, we believe in well-being. Why don't you make a change to your internal culture that proves you care about well-being, that proves your values, and turn that into a story to tell the outside world? That would be a hugely powerful play for 2020. Okay, our final trend before we wrap up, trend number 5, starts with this basic human need: support. We all need support from others. We are social animals. We live in a society. We can't live alone. We can't do things on our own. We need support from the community, from the collective around us. I just want to look at one particular angle of that with this trend. This is a slide that shows you what social media was supposed to be. This was the promise of social media. Like a nirvana, a utopia of sharing and knowledge and bliss and peace and enlightenment. This is what social media turned out to be like. Okay? There are countless studies now showing us that social media, and you don't really need the studies if you spend much time on social media or many of these platforms, that social media has become a toxic morass of bullying and harassment and bad feelings and arguments and lies and fake news. One recent study by Cornell University found that women on Instagram tend to be criticized if people feel they're too fake, but then they also tend to be criticized if people feel they're too real. So they just genuinely cannot win. And there's even mounting evidence that bullying and harassment on social media is closely tied to rising teenage suicide rates around the world. And that is a deeply sobering and terrifying thought. And the evidence for it is becoming increasingly serious and impossible to ignore. So with this final trend, civil media, I want to ask, where is this moment leading us and how will it evolve in 2020? And really the clear signals are that in 2020 and beyond, the future of social media is meaningful social connections and social platforms that offer true meaning and connection to people in a deeper way. And I want to show you some quick examples of how this is playing out. This is Quilt. Quilt is a new app that connects professional women for meetups in real life. So as a host of a meetup, you can establish a meetup and set the topic, like is it going to be pay inequality? Is it going to be work-life balance? Is it going to be stress? Is it just going to be about fun or whatever? And then other women can join that meetup, and there's a time and a place, of course, and they all get together and discuss this and truly connect on a meaningful level about something they're really interested in. And as a host, you can get paid for hosting a meetup if you want, things like that. But it's just a platform that connects people of like mind for meaningful discussion about something they're interested in and something that's useful to them. Here's a similar idea, but I love the real-time nature of this example. This is called the Night Feed, and this is a new social platform for women, new mothers who are up late in the night or in the early hours of the morning breastfeeding. Okay, it can be a very solitary activity. It's an exhausting activity. It's the middle of the night. You can join this community and you will find other new mothers up at exactly the same time as you, doing the same thing as you, ready to talk, to share, to discuss, to have fun, you know, just to share knowledge and expertise, but to share just some jokes, to share the pain, the exhaustion, whatever it is you're going through. You can think, when you think about civil media, about essentially pop-up communities, real-time ephemeral communities that pop in and out of existence based on a shared interest or taste or activity in that particular moment. Like, I'm in this particular moment right now, it's 1 a.m, I'm breastfeeding, I need some support, I just need someone to reach out to. Here is a little pop-up community on this platform that I can just get into and discuss and share. Check this out. 1 in 3 young people in 30 countries say they've been a victim of online bullying, with 1 in 5 reporting having skipped school due to cyberbullying and cyber violence. And we looked earlier on about the evidence that links rising teenage suicide rates to this kind of toxic behavior on social platforms. Here's a big brand attempting to address that set of concerns. And what Sprite did in Latin America is partner with Reddit to establish communities where young people could come to discuss in a civilized and meaningful way issues that were on their mind. So Sprite used Google search trends to discover issues that were concerning teenagers in Latin America, issues and concerns and worries and anxieties. And then it set up Reddit communities for many of those particular anxieties or issues, whether they were around body image or school or, you know, relationships with parents or whatever it was. And each community was led by an influencer in that space who moderated the discussion, who made sure it was constructive and meaningful and helpful. So as a brand, any brand, you can think about how could you partner with one of the existing platforms and how could you partner with influencers out there to create communities, yes, on these existing platforms, but communities inside them that are more constructive, more meaningful, more genuine and authentic than much of the communication you get now on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is. So I would love you to think about this final trend for you in 2020. How can you build civil media spaces in 2020 and beyond? Think about tribes and interest groups. Think about ephemeral pop-up communities that leverage a particular moment in space and time, like I'm a mother up in the middle of the night breastfeeding. Like, what could be the equivalent for you? Think about partnerships with the existing platforms, but when you do that, make sure that you are bringing enough control and you are bringing enough attention and authority and sincerity to ensure that the discussion on those big platforms and the community in that platform is truly meaningful and sincere and authentic. And Sprite did that partly by leveraging true influencers in those spaces, like body image, relationship with parents, schoolwork, whatever, to make sure the discussion stayed on track. So look, that wraps up this webinar. That wraps up the 5 trends I wanted to share with you today. Of course, if you're a premium client, if you haven't already, tear into the report. You can read about all the 5 trends there, plus 11 others. Dive into them, all the examples, the timelines, the insights. Keep tracking the trends online across the coming months and indeed across the entire year. We will be pouring new examples of these trends and all the other trends we track into our innovation database so you can keep tracking the evolution of these trends online through your premium service. And of course, trends, as I said right at the beginning, are nothing if you don't apply them, if you don't put them to work to make what you do and indeed make the world better. You need to use these trends, and there is a suite of tools inside your premium service called the Academy Toolkit that will empower you to use these trends, to put these trends to work, to create amazing new products, new services, campaigns, business models that people will love in 2020 and beyond. So take the trends, take the Academy Toolkit and get to work to create an amazing new offering in 2020. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'll be writing lots more about these trends in the coming weeks and months, so check that out and follow me if you want to read more there. But all it remains to say now is thank you so much for tuning in. Take the 5 trends, innovate, get going and win in 2020. And please do write to us, write to me and let me know how you got on. Good luck and thanks for listening. Goodbye.